Mammography is one of the best screening tools to find breast cancer. Breast cancer may not be preventable, but you can survive it through early detection. If you're a mother or grandmother, sister or best friend,
aunt or cousin,
we encourage you to know your risk, make healthy lifestyle choices, and to know what's normal for your body.
Get screened, get your mammogram annually.
We did!
Haitian migrants preparing for new immigration policy changes that take effect tomorrow. The government establishes a new corporation to absorb bad Bank of the Bahamas debt. The Prime Minister defends the sale of the Hilton Hotel, plus hundreds of police recruits graduate. We've got those stories and more coming up tonight. I'm Dana Smith, and NB12 starts right now. With the government moving ahead with its new immigration policy changes set to take effect tomorrow, it's expected many undocumented Haitian nationals may be repatriated. Despite there being no clear outline as to how the regulations will play out, some Haitians have already begun preparing themselves for the possibility of being sent back home. Kyle Joaquin reports.
With only a matter of hours left before doomsday, as some have decided to call it, some Haitian nationals are in full panic mode as they don't know how the new immigration regulation will play out. But then again, there are others who say they will just sit back and watch. With today being the last day for undocumented Haitian nationals to get some sort of legal status in the Bahamas before the government's new regulations take effect, many of them say they have no other choice but to go back home to Haiti. According to the new regulation, all Haitian nationals without any legal status in the Bahamas will be deported. We visited two shanty towns today, one of which sits along Faith Avenue, where just about all the homes have already been completely demolished. This Haitian resident admitted that he has no legal status and nowhere else to go. He said he's prepared to go home if caught.
Boy, that's can't take everybody one time. That's right. When this come, I got no problem with that.
Yeah, okay.
I got no problem with that.
So you don't mind going back to Haiti?
No, I don't mind. That's my place. That's my place. That's why I get mine. I don't mind with that. That's my place.
67-year-old Sinforo Gayami's home is one of the only three still standing in the shanty town after all the other homes have been destroyed. She said she's been in the Bahamas for 41 years and has permanent residency, so no one can tell her she has to leave. In addition to her permanent residency, Gayami travels back and forth to the U.S. and has a U.S. visa. She says even if she has to leave, she has no money to do so. So because you can't find anywhere to go now, if someone pays for your ticket to go back to Haiti, would you go?
What happened to residency? What happened? What happened? Tell me what happened. I don't know. I can't say. I can't say yes, I can't say no, because I'm living in Bahamas long time. I got residency. I don't know what happened. Nobody can't do me nothing. No. I got residency. I got my visa. I got 5 years in my visa. You ain't got 2 months yet before I renew that.
Our news team then attempted to enter the other shanty town where some of the homes were just destroyed by fire on Wednesday. However, the entrance is now blocked by several pieces of wood. With no one inside, there is no telling what would happen if one were to enter the property. Now, it's also stated in the new regulations that even the children of illegal Haitian nationals will be repatriated. The only way for them to stay is if guardianship is signed over to a person legally residing in the Bahamas. There is no clear outline as to how the new regulations will play out. However, Prime Minister Perry Christie says this is something his government is determined to get done.
Everything you do with respect to people, some of whom have lived in your country, albeit illegally for a long time, represents a human critical subject. Human critical subject in the sense that you're dealing with children, and therefore you want to take every means, ensure that you've taken all of the steps that are necessary to minimize pain, suffering, upheaval, and these are issues that must affect us and influence us as we move forward to enforce new policies.
Reporting for NB12, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
The Christie administration has established a government corporation that will absorb $100 million worth of the Bank of the Bahamas' troubled commercial loans and will hire an accounting firm to go after those overdue payments. Prime Minister Perry Christie made the announcement this afternoon, stating Bahamas Resolve Limited was created to strengthen the Bank of the Bahamas, of which the government has majority shares. Christie said the government made the decision after the central bank advised it of the emerging risk posed by some of BOB's unpaid commercial loans.
Resolve has taken over $100 million in troubled commercial loans from the Bank of the Bahamas, thereby removing this risk from the Bank of the Bahamas' books. In so doing, the bank's revenue prospects will be immediately and significantly improved. At the same time, shareholder value and the bank's overall financial condition will be enhanced as well. It will allow the Bank of the Bahamas to return to profitability in the near future and will restore full compliance with central bank and international regulatory standards for capital adequacy.
When asked why the government believes it can collect payments on the troubled loans when BOB could not, Managing Director Paul McQueenie said he is optimistic Resolve will collect the outstanding debt because as a private company, Resolve will have the capacity to take stronger action. Governor of the Central Bank, Wendy Craig, said the central bank supports the move.
This is what supports public confidence in our system and therefore contributes to overall economic and financial stability. The plan also restores Bank of Bahamas' compliance with domestic and international requirements for capital and liquidity. By extension, it also promotes the interests of the bank's depositors and allows Bank of the Bahamas to focus on its plans for sustained growth and profitability.
Christie said the bank will also undertake restructuring action to realign and rebalance its business model towards more retail banking, consumer lending, and e-banking products.
The Bank of the Bahamas' Board of Directors has also been directed to assess its management and cost structure and to submit recommendations to the government as the majority shareholder for management and administrative reorganization before the end of 2014, before the end of this year.
Well, in the wake of concerns over the sale of the British colonial Hilton to the same Chinese state-owned company responsible for Baha-Mar, Prime Minister Perry Christie is defending his government's decision to approve that transaction. Former Foreign Affairs Minister Brent Simonet was among those voicing unease, telling NB12 earlier this week the sale should be a concern. Yesterday evening, Christie took issue with Simonet's comments, pointing to the Ingham administration's own agreements with Chinese investors.
I'm surprised at Brent Simonet taking that position, because if Brent Simonet is speaking about the Chinese, Brent Simonet's government gave the Chinese, right, in a letter of 1994 signed by the Prime Minister, I think at the time, the right to veto every development of a port, of a nature of a port, even outside of Freeport. So even though there are persons wishing to put in a mega development, Hutchison Whampoa, as given and conceded by Brent Simonet's government, was given the right to say, if you're going to do it, you have to provide me with payment for it. Okay, so if he wants to talk about who has done what and concern for this country and the country's national interest, that's where he should start.
It was announced last week the Hilton has been sold to China State Construction Engineering Corporation, the same Chinese state-owned company responsible for building the multi-billion-dollar Baha-Mar resort through its subsidiary. The developers and the Prime Minister also hinted at a possible downtown Nassau redevelopment plan. The announcement of the sale has raised concerns among some who have noted China's involvement in the Bahamian economy continues to grow. Simonet had said, "It is potentially dangerous that you have a large sector of our major industry being controlled by one group." Speaking yesterday on the sidelines of an event at the Hilton Hotel, Christie told reporters no redevelopment can take place downtown without input from the East Bay Street property owners, such as the Simonet family.
Secondly, he knows that any proposal to do with respect to Bay Street must necessarily involve the Simonet family, the Bethel family, the Kelly family. Those three families that I have spoken to with respect to that, who have property on the waterfront, I beg your pardon, and one more, the Clanaris family, all right, that they have in fact in the area, they have property in the area, and there's anything we do will be predicated on their direct involvement in it. So that's out of the question.
Christie noted the Chinese have done investments all over the world, including the United States. And with this latest investment, the hotel will continue to be managed either by the Hilton or whoever the developers choose. Christie said this is the way of investment, and he doesn't see what the concern is.
The Chinese has entered into an agreement to buy this hotel. Just like Chinese bought the Waldorf Astoria, okay, for over $1 billion in New York, where the President of the United States stays. That's the kind of business hotels in. When they buy this hotel, the intention is, presumably, for this hotel to be managed either by Hilton or someone of their choosing. That's the way of investment. What the concern is, I have no idea of.
A couple of weeks after a heated dispute took place between taxi drivers and employees from a local tour company at the Prince George Dock, Minister of Transport and Aviation, Glenys Hanna-Martin, says the main cause of the rift between the groups is market interference. She says the Ministry of Tourism and the Road Traffic Department have been working to promptly resolve the issues. Simone Davis has more in this report.
Hanna-Martin says the brawl occurred because taxi drivers and local tour companies were not clear on their boundaries when it came to collecting tourists as they came in at the Prince George Dock area.
The controller's been out there physically on the ground. He's had dialogue. I think they're resolving the issues. Franchise holders have distinctive franchises. The lines have become blurred over the years on all sides, and so it leads to sometimes tensions rising, and that's what you saw happening there. We always advise, try to resolve matters through the institutionally, so it doesn't end up overflowing in the way in which it does, where it becomes a public issue.
During the dispute, taxi drivers were outraged that local tour companies were allegedly soliciting tourists from the Prince George Dock area where taxi drivers had permission to do so and tour companies did not. The taxi drivers said the tour companies were cutting into their pockets. Hanna-Martin added that the government is in the process of reviewing the franchises in the Road Traffic Act to ensure that market share is properly defined amongst the taxi drivers and tour companies.
We're in the process of reviewing the Road Traffic Act. We had a consultant in, he's completed the review, and out of that we're going to be looking at the franchises and seeing how those franchises should be modernized. But you want to, I think, keep a defined market share. And I think, that's the problem where you see where people who have defined market shares moving into the market share of other categories. And we have to ensure that that doesn't happen.
The Transport and Aviation Minister noted that it is important to manage the transportation operators because there are many competing markets, including ferry boats and scooter rental companies.
Even though there's thousands coming off of the cruise ships, there's competing market share. You have the ferry boats, you have the surrey operators, you have the scooter rentals, you have the tour operators, you have the taxi drivers, and so there's a whole array of competitive options. And so we have to manage that so it doesn't become overwhelming to the visitor, number one, and number two, where people don't start moving into areas that belong to other franchise holders.
Hannah Martin says she's confident that the issues between the taxi drivers and tour companies are being resolved, and there is now clarity on what is permitted and what is not. Reporting for NB12, I'm Simone Davis.